and that I need to do something. You know, wanted to be a role model for my son, wanted to spend as much time on this earth with him as possible, and I needed the help. That's why I came to MPT.
Alrighty, here we are today at Powerhouse Gym in Southside Brisbane, joined today by MPT Rebuild Success client Thomas Hoey, all the way from Armidale, New South Wales today.
Yes, that's right, northern New South Wales.
Amazing. So we're going to go through a back and trap session today and have a chat about how you lost 22
kilos, yeah.
22 kilos of fat.
Yep.
Awesome, let's do it. Okay, so we're actually going to start today on a rear delt exercise. It's called a barbell extension. The idea of this is just to activate the rear delt and get everything posterior chain working before we start on our pulling movement. Alrighty, so we're done with our rear delt extensions. Good movement, right?
Yeah, burns.
Loved it. Okay, we're going to do plate loaded pull downs. But before we do, mate, I wanted to ask you, what was your first 12-week rebuild results?
Yeah, so the first 12 weeks, I lost 13 kilo.
That's impressive.
So yeah, a bit over 1 a week.
Yeah.
It just sheds that first 12.
Yeah.
When you're doing the compliance bit, week to week, it just comes off so good.
Were you surprised with that? Were you expecting that many kilos to come off? Or
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect really, being pretty much a novice. But like the result was really surprising.
Okay, awesome. And what other benefits, I suppose, did you start to receive within that first 12 weeks other than just the scale results?
Well, the compliments were pretty good, but effectively straight away just eating good, more energy, better sleep, better quality sleep, and just instantly felt the benefits probably from the second week in.
Wow, incredible. All right, and what's your total result now? So you did 13 kilos in the first 12 weeks.
Yep, that's right.
Where are you at now? How many kilos down?
22 kilos down now.
22 kilos down, wow.
Yep. So I'm a much smaller man than I once was.
Leaner.
Yeah, that's right.
Is this the leanest you've been in your adult life, or have you been here before?
It is. I'm actually smaller now than what I was like in my late teens and early 20s. So
amazing. I say this with everybody, you're the oldest you are.
Yes.
And you're in the best shape you've been in.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely, without a doubt.
Let that sink in. Good stuff.
Many reps later.
Beautiful. Now as you do that, pull your sternum, breastbone, to the roof. Alrighty, just got done with our first working set on pull downs. Good job. So describe to me where you were before you saw my ugly mug on an ad on what I would assume is Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. Well, before I came to you, I was in the worst shape I'd ever been in my life. In my 20s, really active, playing a lot of sport, tried a bit of CrossFit, all these sorts of things, but would eat crap and live crap, drinking, partying, and that sort of stuff. But because I was in my 20s, I was able to sort of out-train a bad diet.
Got away with it.
Then I turned 30, then got busy with work, got busy with the relationship. COVID happened, was locked down. I lost a lot of momentum, and then I was in the worst spot I'd ever been.
How much?
103.6 kilo at my heaviest.
Yep. At 6'1", it's not too bad, but it doesn't look great.
No, that's right. I looked like I was basically stung by a bee around the middle.
I like that. Okay, and what was your decision-making apparatus when you saw our ad?
Ultimately, I knew I needed to make a change. Eating crap and feeling crap, I knew I had to do something basically. The big thing for me was that we started IVF and I was going to be a father. So I knew I couldn't be in this poor a shape and raise a son and then expect him to, listen to me and look about how to look after himself.
Hope you're listening to that, dads. That's great advice. Awesome, man. Thank you. So I'm about to start my first working set. I've worked up to this weight. If I walked into the gym and didn't warm up and work up to this and tried this, I'd tear my shoulder out of the socket. So as you would have seen, I start with 2, I do 3, I do 4. Now I'm primed, my nervous system is ready, my joints are ready, my muscles are ready, my mind's ready. I'm ready to do my working weight and my working sets, which are designed with the right intensity to tear down the muscle fibers and actually grow. You end up rounded like this.
Yep.
Lats can't work like that. You're better off yanking back, pulling your chest.
Okay, so maybe a bit of a lean to it.
Yeah, do strict for your first couple, but as soon as you feel yourself start like that.
Yep.
And make sure that sternum is being pulled up. That's money. Perfect. Hold here. Don't reset, keep tension at the top. Yep, then lean back. Yep. I want your chest high, man. Chest high. Sit. Another one. One more. Nice. Oh. All right, so we're done with lat pull downs. We're moving over here to cable rows. But in between sets, mate, I wanted to ask you a quick question. What were some of the fat loss myths that you may have believed before doing a rebuild that you now know aren't true?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things I noticed with the rebuild is that absolutely no cardio. I always thought jogging, sprints, skipping, kettlebell swings, all the, on top of like your weights exercises, would be beneficial for weight loss. But with the MPT Rebuild, there was none of that.
So we had you lifting weights how many times a week?
5.
5, exactly. What about nutrition? What were some of the things that you noticed with our nutrition approach versus what you may have thought you needed to do to lose 22 kilos?
Yeah, I think the quantity, honestly, I'm actually eating more food now than what I was when I was unhealthy and before I started eating steaks. I'm eating, like chicken wraps, ham and egg wraps, LCM bars, the works. I'm not missing out, that's for sure.
So just to be really clear with that, it's more food volume on your plate, not more calories.
That's right.
If it was more calories, you would be putting on weight, not losing it.
That's right, and the timing as well. The timing's really important, and the nutritional value and that quantity, it all goes into, doing the rebuild correctly.
It does, for sure. And I guess most people, when they're in a weight loss diet or a fat loss diet, they expect to feel tired and starving all the time. Was that the reality for you?
No, actually, it was one of the things that we tried to get with my coach, making sure that I was full all the time, and then monitoring if I was hungry week to week, so he knew if he needed to adjust my plan.
For guys like you that are in a profession like yours that require consistent bandwidth, you're an accountant and a part-time volunteer firefighter.
Yes.
Pretend firefighter, as your missus calls it. Called her out there. It's obviously important that you're feeling energized, mentally sharp, you don't have brain fog, you're not relying on 6 coffees a day to get you through your calorie deficit, but it was quite the opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I feel like I'm fueled enough to take on the day. Whilst doing this significant change with my body and my training, I can also, meet the requirements of, my work commitments and family commitments quite easily.
And that's what we pride ourselves on, is being able to create an overall strategy that works for the individual and the individual's lifestyle. You're an accountant, you do FIFO, you run a business, you're a fucking uni student, whatever it may be. Would you say that felt like it was the case for you?
Absolutely, it's 100% tailored to the individual.
Okay. Awesome, all right, let's stack this fucking cable row. So, great set, by the way. While we're catching our breath in between sets, I've got a question for you. What was the exact moment that you realised that you couldn't keep living in your previous body?
Yeah, I can pinpoint it. I was sort of umming and ahhing about what I'm going to do with my fitness, but for me, it was my son on the way. We'd started IVF, found out the missus was pregnant, and basically that was the final straw for me, that I couldn't continue on living like this, and I need to do something. Wanted to be a role model for my son. Wanted to spend as much time on this earth with him as possible. I had to do something about it, and I needed the help. So that's why I came to MPT.
All said. You sure that's not scripted?
100% not.
Good answer, man. Alrighty, so we're done with cable row, new PB.
Yes, new PB.
Amazing. We're moving over here to a hammer strength row, but before we do our working sets, mate, I want to ask you a prying question. If you didn't do the rebuild, where do you think you'd be today?
Honestly, still tired. I'd be sick. I'd still be swelling around the drain. Particularly my relationship would be struggling. With our son now around, I wouldn't be able to be the best for him and for my partner. If I still was in the same position, that's not the man that my partner fell in love with, and so, there'd be tension there, I think, absolutely. I've got to take accountability, and I've done that with you, to try and be the best version of myself that I can be for my wife and my son.
Amazing. All right, so we've done our 2 working sets on single arm hammer strength rows. How good was that?
Yeah, burns. Real
Incredible.
good.
Now we're going to move over to an upper back row. But before we do so, mate, I want to ask you this point blank. Were you skeptical this was going to work?
A little bit. You know, I'd not done any training before. You know, it's all on the social media and stuff. I did do my research. I thought, you know what, I've never worked with a coach before. I'll give it a go. I think the thing that separated it for me was having that accountability, the check-in calls weekly, you know, helped to keep me on track as well. Doing that from northern New South Wales rural area, you know, that accessibility was awesome.
I've always found that from my clients' experience, it's pretty easy to let yourself down when you're doing a diet or a training program or whatever. But when you're letting down another coach and then another coach, 2 coaches, it's a bit of extra skin in the game. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. You know, working with the coaches and the coaching team, you know, it became a bit more like a friendship. Oh, how's the week going? You know, check in. And then you get to the question, all right, did you stick to your meal plan? And if you said no, you know, you can just hear it. Man, what are you doing? You're letting yourself down, you know, stay accountable. And, you know, it helps them to track how you're going week to week. So
Correct.
the more compliant you are, you know, the more readily they're able to adjust your plan to continue with the weight loss.
Yeah, would you say compliance is the science?
Absolutely.
No, I say that. Okay, so next question. What would you say to somebody who thinks maybe it's too late?
Well, I don't think it is ever too late, really. You know, probably the best time to start was probably yesterday, but effectively you've got to dive in to really know. And you know, my experience has been really good. I've had great coaching. You know, I've not missed out on the meal plans, and the lifestyle hasn't suffered. It's actually improved.
Yeah, which is key, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which we're always harping on about. Like, it needs to be a lifestyle upgrade to become the man that you want to become. In your instance, you want to become a new man because you just had a son, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Many reps later.
Okay, so we're moving on to an incline dumbbell row, just to target that mid-back. Before we get into set, I wanted to ask you a question, man. What would the wife, family, friends, and work colleagues say about the new version of you?
Well, it is quite funny when I was, you know, toward the pointy end of where I am today. You know, I get comments from the mates and stuff, oh, you've been sick, is the missus not feeding you and whatnot. But even leading up to, you know, coming up here and training with you today, the missus would say, wow, like, you know, you look really good. You know, mum and dad like think, oh, you're really good. My old man, he trains pretty hard and he's well into his 60s. Now I can keep up with him. So,
Yeah. Very good. And before off camera, we touched on your mate said, what are you doing, mate? The missus isn't feeding you. That's all poppy syndrome in Australia, right? You know, someone's doing better than they are and someone's looking after their health or maybe their finances or maybe they're better in, you know, marriage or whatever it may be, business. Most Aussies, unfortunately, they kind of almost take it personally, don't they?
it's quite funny, you know, like the guys at work and stuff would be like, oh, you know, come out for a beer, you know, what's happening, you've changed type of thing. If you can get through the ribbing and stuff and give it back as good as you get it, you know, and the friendship still survives, then, you know, you've got good friends there. But if there are people who just constantly badger you and say, you know, come on, come out for a beer and whatever, and, you know, just degrade you trying to better yourself, it's not worth it.
Might be time to reevaluate your circle.
Yeah, 100%. And doing this rebuild too, you really find out, you know, who loves you the most because they'll support you having a black cup of coffee while they're having schnitzels at the pub, you know? So,
yeah. And that was one of the things that you said before that you did during the rebuild, during the more concentrated part of the rebuild where we wanted you 100% of the plan, is you would actually eat your meal before going out for lunch and things with friends, right?
Yeah, that's right. You know, even as recent as a couple of weeks ago, you know, we took our son out for lunch at the pub with the grandparents. I actually just ate beforehand, you know, so I was sorted. And then, you know, I got to play with our son while they enjoyed their meals. And it was fine, you know, it was natural. You know, people get used to it after a while.
Yeah, spot on. Alrighty, so we just got done doing some redelts. We're about to finish off on some J-row dumbbell shrugs. Basically, mate, any final words? What would you say to somebody who's watching this, who's on the fence about doing an MPT rebuild or making a change with their health and fitness? What would your advice be?
Do it. Trust the process. You know, Mike, you and your team have changed my life. I actually feel, you know, like I've got a new body, a new lease on life. More importantly, I've got my edge back. You know, I've got my confidence back, I've got my swagger back, so to speak. That's not even before we touch on, you know, like the health benefits. You know, I've added years to my life now. I'm not continuing to go down and circling the drain with my health. I'm improved, you know, I'm gonna be fit, watch my son grow up, you know, have a good life. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're feeling good coming into your 40s instead of fearing coming into your 40s.
Yeah, that's right. I think that'll be the best decade of my life.
Incredible. And like we said earlier, mate, you're the oldest you've ever been.
Yes.
And you're in the best shape of your life.
Yes, that's right. Better than I was in my 20s.
Yeah, great job. Congrats on the rebuild, mate.
Thank you.
Good stuff.